A racist white police officer blatantly handcuffed a black woman in front of a stunned crowd just because she thought she was crossing the street illegally. What he did not anticipate, the woman is the town's mayor. The incident immediately causes an uproar, exposing deep systemic injustices and igniting an unprecedented storm of tension. What happened? Why did a seemingly small action shake the entire community? Don't miss the shocking truths and explosive emotions about to be revealed. Sign up now. The town of Meadowville began a new day in peace, with early sunlight stretching across the small streets as people bustled about preparing for work. Mayor Lisa Johnson, a bold and decisive woman, started her morning with her usual jog to clear her mind. Lisa often used this time to reflect on important issues at work and ways to improve the lives of her constituents. As she ran past a quiet intersection, Lisa suddenly heard the blare of a police siren behind her. Turning around, she saw Officer Mark Spencer, a white police officer with a stern gaze and an authoritative voice, stepping out of his patrol car. "Stop right there. You crossed the street on a red light," Mark said, his tone laced with accusation. Remaining calm, Lisa stopped and removed her headphones. "I'm confident I did nothing wrong. The intersection was empty, and I'm certain I crossed when the signal allowed," she replied, her tone polite yet firm. However, Mark wasn't interested in listening. He insisted Lisa provide identification. "I need to check your ID. Don't make excuses," he said with a rigid demeanor. Sensing the situation was taking a troubling turn, Lisa spoke up. "I am Mayor Lisa Johnson. If you need verification, check the records or contact my office." Mark raised an eyebrow, his expression filled with skepticism and mockery. "Mayor? Anyone can claim to be the mayor. I don't care who you are. Hand over your ID now, or I'll arrest you for noncompliance." Faced with Mark's stubbornness and increasingly aggressive behavior, Lisa refused to provide her ID, standing her ground on the principle that she had done nothing wrong. Mark immediately handcuffed her, ignoring her explanations. The passers-by, initially stopping out of curiosity, began to gather in greater numbers. Stares of shock spread as people realized the person being arrested was their mayor. A few quickly pulled out their phones to record the scene, escalating the situation into one of chaos and tension. Lisa Johnson, her hands cuffed behind her back, was escorted toward the police car as an ever-growing crowd looked on. Her eyes scanned the faces filled with shock and indignation. A voice suddenly rang out from the middle of the crowd, breaking the tense atmosphere. "She's the mayor. You can't do this." Mark Spencer was unmoved. His eyes were cold, deliberately ignoring the protests. "Step back. This is police business," he shouted, his authoritative tone laced with anger. Lisa remained calm, but she couldn't help sensing the prejudice emanating from Mark's gaze. The way he gripped her arm, firm to the point of pain, and the disdain on his face made her realize this was no ordinary arrest. As Mark pushed her into the back seat of the police car, a flicker of memory surfaced in his mind. It was from the days when he struggled to climb the career ladder but was repeatedly overlooked. He remembered the time he was denied a promotion to sergeant, only to see the position handed to a colleague, a black woman he deemed unqualified. Mark couldn't forget the bitterness and humiliation of that moment. In his mind, Lisa, a black woman who not only held the title of mayor, but was also beloved and respected, had become a symbol of everything he perceived as unfair in his life. Returning to the present, Mark slammed the car door shut, glancing at the crowd with a challenging stare. "Anyone who interferes will be arrested immediately," he declared, stirring murmurs of discontent among the onlookers. As Lisa was being pulled through the crowd, a middle-aged woman stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached toward Lisa. She whispered, "Mayor, I always knew you would make a difference. We stand with you." Lisa looked into the woman's hopeful eyes, and despite her simmering anger, offered a faint smile, feeling a profound connection with her community that gave her renewed strength. Sitting still in the car, Lisa took a deep breath to regain her composure. She understood that Mark's actions were not just an abuse of power, but also fueled by personal animosity, a toxic blend of prejudice and long-held resentment. As the police car prepared to drive away, an elderly woman, a longtime resident of the town, stepped forward and shouted, "We won't stay silent. We will fight." Her words ignited the simmering outrage within the crowd. Some began to chant, while others recorded the scene, determined to bring the story to light. Mark, glancing in the rearview mirror, felt an unsettling discomfort creeping in. Yet, instead of wavering, he clenched his jaw, convincing himself that his authority would quell the unrest. What he failed to realize was that his actions had sparked an unstoppable wave of resistance. As the crowd outside grew increasingly restless, the sound of another police siren pierced through the tense atmosphere. A patrol car pulled up, and out stepped Officer David Harris, a seasoned and well-respected policeman in the town of Meadowville. Harris quickly recognized the irregularity of the situation and walked straight toward Mark Spencer. "Mark, what's going on here?" Harris asked, his tone both calming and demanding an explanation. His eyes shifted to Lisa, who was handcuffed, and he immediately understood this was no routine arrest. Mark, already feeling the pressure from the surrounding crowd, turned to face Harris. "She crossed the street on a red light. I asked for her ID, but she refused and resisted. I'm just doing my duty," he said coldly, though his tone betrayed a hint of tension. Harris studied Mark carefully, noting the familiar stubbornness in his younger colleague. "Mark, she's a mayor. This is not how we handle a situation like this. You're not just harming her. You're damaging the reputation of the entire police force," Harris said, his voice steady but tinged with disappointment. Feeling challenged, Mark tightened his grip on his belt. "I don't care who she is," he growled. "No one is above the law. If I let her go, we'll lose credibility." Harris, a veteran of the police force, knew Mark's actions weren't solely driven by duty. He had heard whispers among colleagues about Mark's attitude toward people of color, especially those in positions of power. Mark harbored resentment from past disappointments, being passed over for promotions and feeling that individuals like Lisa were undeserving of their achievements. Harris realized this wasn't just about enforcing the law, but also about personal prejudice and bitterness. Stepping closer, Harris lowered his voice, though it carried a firm authority. "Listen, Mark, if you don't release the mayor right now, no one here will ever trust our force again. Think carefully. This video is going to spread, and when it does, it won't just be her who faces consequences. You will too." By now, the crowd had started chanting for Lisa's release, making Mark feel cornered. He glanced at Lisa, who remained composed despite her handcuffs, and then back at Harris. After a tense pause, Mark let out a bitter sigh. With a begrudging sneer, he muttered, "Fine, but don't think this is over." He unlocked the handcuffs, eliciting a wave of relief from the crowd. Lisa rubbed her wrists and looked Mark squarely in the eye. "Thank you for doing the right thing," she said, her tone firm yet cutting. The video of Lisa's arrest quickly went viral on social media, igniting a storm of outrage. Residents of Meadowville were not only furious at Mark's behavior, but also began questioning the broader operations of the town's police force. Meanwhile, Mark walked away with simmering resentment. fully aware that this incident would create even greater turmoil for both himself and the department. Back at home, Mark's mind was in turmoil. He threw his police cap onto the table, his bloodshot eyes glaring at the blank wall. "This is all her fault," he muttered, his fists clenched as if trying to crush the anger bubbling inside him. The memories of being passed over for promotions resurfaced, each one cutting deeper into his pride. "They want me to fail," he thought, his mind spiraling with the determination to reclaim his standing no matter the cost. As Lisa stepped out of the police car and back into her daily life, she felt acutely that everything had changed. The image of her being handcuffed had become a hot topic on social media, with thousands of shares and comments. Public opinion was divided into two camps. One strongly supported Lisa, praising her as a symbol of justice, while the other argued that the incident only added unnecessary tension to the town. At her usual cafe, Lisa overheard whispers of conversation behind her. One voice said, "She's so brave." But another countered, "She's the mayor. She should have shown restraint. Look at the town now. It's divided." Lisa knew that every move she made would now be closely scrutinized. She wasn't just facing the wrath of the police, but also criticism from certain members of the community, those who preferred peace, even if it meant ignoring injustice. While Lisa was trying to figure out how to navigate the situation, one of her closest staff members, Emily Carter, approached her, visibly uneasy. Emily, who had worked with Lisa for years, was a dedicated and reliable assistant. But today, her eyes betrayed her worry. "Mayor, I need to speak with you privately," Emily said in a hushed voice. Once they entered Lisa's office, Emily quietly placed an envelope on the desk. "The police have contacted me," she said, her voice faltering. Lisa frowned. "What did they say?" They want me to provide internal information about the office's plans. They said if I don't cooperate, they'll find a way to charge me with anything. They threatened to smear my reputation publicly," Emily said, her voice trembling. Lisa felt anger boil within her. This was no longer a personal issue. The police were now resorting to intimidation tactics to protect their interests. "Emily, you don't have to do this. I will protect you," Lisa reassured her, though deep down she knew the situation had become more perilous than ever. As tensions continued to rise, a small group of citizens organized a peaceful protest in the town square, demanding an investigation into the police's actions. Initially, everything proceeded orderly, with speeches calling for justice and transparency. But as the sun began to set, the atmosphere shifted. A group of unfamiliar individuals arrived, shouting provocative slogans and deliberately inciting chaos among the crowd. Bottles were thrown, glass shattered, and the peaceful demonstration quickly descended into chaos. Lisa, watching the protest from her office, rushed outside upon hearing the commotion. She arrived at the scene to find the police, led by Mark Spencer, present, not to restore order, but seemingly waiting for the situation to escalate to justify a harsh response. "Stop this right now," Lisa shouted, trying to command the attention of both the crowd and the police. "We're here to demand justice, not destroy our town." Mark approached Lisa with a smug grin. "I told you, you're just making things worse," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. Standing in the middle of the chaotic crowd, Lisa could feel the danger of the situation. If she couldn't regain control, things would spiral out of hand, giving Mark and the police the pretext they needed to justify their abuse of power. She knew that this time she needed a plan, not just to protect herself, but to preserve the unity of the community. After the chaotic protest in the central square, Lisa understood that she needed to regain control of the narrative quickly. City Hall was chosen as the venue for a press conference, where she would publicly condemn Officer Mark Spencer's abuse of power and call for an independent investigation to address the issues surrounding the Meadowville police force. Under the scorching midday sun, hundreds of residents and journalists gathered in front of City Hall. Lisa stepped up to the podium, her eyes shining with determination. Beside her stood a group of close advisors, including Emily, who remained silent but conveyed steadfast support through her resolute gaze. "Fellow residents of Meadowville," Lisa began, her voice ringing powerfully through the microphone. "The events of the past few days are not just an injustice against me, but a reflection of a deeper issue, one that has simmered in our community for far too long." Lisa paused, letting her words sink in. The actions of Officer Mark Spencer were not only a violation of my rights, but a symptom of a system that needs thorough examination. I'm not here to single out individuals, but to demand transparency, fairness, and accountability from those tasked with protecting us. The crowd remained silent, hanging on her every word. Lisa continued, "Today, I'm officially calling for an independent investigation into the actions of the Meadowville police force. We cannot allow abuses of power to erode the trust between the people and those sworn to protect them." As Lisa delivered her speech, an unexpected event unfolded a few blocks away. Chief Richard Harrington, head of the Meadowville police force, had convened his press conference without prior notice. Harrington, a middle-aged man with a stern demeanor, stepped up to his podium flanked by officers, including Mark Spencer. Facing the cameras with an air of confidence and a glint of defiance in his eyes, he began, "The Meadowville Police Department is under attack by baseless accusations," Harrington declared. "We are not here to be the target of political agendas. Officer Spencer acted appropriately and by protocol, and we fully stand behind him." As his tone grew sharper, Harrington added, "These calls for an independent investigation are nothing more than an attempt to divide our community. We need unity, not an internal conflict sparked by personal agendas." When Lisa received word of Harrington's press conference, she recognized it as a counterattack meant to undermine her message. Reporters quickly pressed her for a response. "Mayor Johnson, Chief Harrington has just stated that your actions are dividing the community. How do you respond?" Lisa looked directly into the cameras, her gaze unwavering. "If demanding justice and accountability is divisive, then yes, I will continue to divide," she said firmly. "But I do not believe that facing the truth will harm this community. On the contrary, it is silence that destroys us." Lisa's rebuttal immediately went viral on social media, but it also drew harsher criticism from those siding with the police. Harrington, meanwhile, continued rallying support from conservative groups in the town, further heightening tensions. Privately, Harrington knew his time was running out, but he had no intention of going quietly. "If I go down, she won't have peace either," he resolved, crafting a final plan. Harrington ordered Mark Spencer and a loyal faction within the force to start gathering every minor misstep of Lisa's, even fabricating evidence if necessary. "We'll make her lose the support of her people," he declared. Harrington also contacted a wealthy benefactor in the town, proposing a substantial donation to fund a smear campaign against Lisa. "They'll never know I'm behind it," he smirked, satisfied with his vengeful scheme. The city council meeting was called urgently in an atmosphere thick with tension. Lisa entered the meeting room, her eyes scanning the familiar faces. Some of her colleagues appeared hesitant, while others displayed dissatisfaction. News of Harrington's press conference had stirred mixed opinions within the council. Lisa took a deep breath, bracing herself for the challenges ahead. She knew this battle wasn't just happening outside, but also here, among those she once considered allies. As soon as Lisa took her seat, William Parker, a senior council member known for his conservative stance, stood up with a displeased expression. "Mayor Johnson," he began, his tone filled with reproach, "your actions over the past few days have caused significant damage to the reputation of our town. I do not deny that there are disagreements, but your public call for an independent investigation has only complicated matters." William paused, glancing around the room in an attempt to garner support from the other members. "We need to maintain unity, and unity does not mean stirring up conflict. I propose that we drop this investigation and focus on restoring the town's image rather than furthering division." After the meeting, Lisa and Olivia stood in the hallway, gazing out the window. "Remember the first day I was elected mayor? We held that little community celebration," Olivia said softly. "I remember everyone laughing and sharing hopes for the future." Lisa nodded, warmth spreading through her at the memory. "Yes, and we've accomplished a lot. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it." Lisa kept her composure, though she felt a simmering frustration. William's words didn't just undermine what she was trying to achieve. They reflected a willingness to avoid confronting the real issue, an attitude that had allowed injustice to persist for years. Before Lisa could respond, Olivia Carter, a young and progressive council member, unexpectedly stood up. "With all due respect, Mr. Parker," Olivia said, her voice clear and resolute, "I cannot agree with your point of view. The unity you speak of is just a facade. How can we call it unity when injustice continues to thrive in our community every single day?" Olivia fixed her gaze on William before turning to address the entire room. "What happened to Mayor Johnson is not an isolated incident. It is a symptom of a deeper problem within the system. Racism that many of us have chosen to ignore. This is not the time to avoid the issue. This is the time to act." Olivia's words plunged the room into a tense silence. Some council members lowered their heads, avoiding her gaze, while William appeared visibly irritated. Lisa recognized this as her opportunity to speak. Rising to her feet, she met William's eyes with unwavering determination. "Mr. Parker, I understand your concern for the town's reputation, but true reputation comes from integrity and fairness, not from hiding the fundamental issues. If we do nothing, if we refuse to face the truth, then the reputation you're trying to protect is nothing but a lie." She turned to address the other members, her voice growing stronger. "This isn't just about me or any one individual. It's about the people of Meadowville, people who have endured injustice for years. We have a responsibility to them, and I will not let this issue be swept aside for the sake of convenience or fear." Lisa and Olivia's words drew a clear line within the council. Some members agreed, but conservatives like William remained steadfast in their opposition. William looked at Lisa, his expression tinged with disappointment. "You may want to change the system, but don't forget that pushing too hard can destroy what we've built." Lisa's voice remained steady as she replied, "If a system doesn't serve everyone, then it needs to be changed, regardless of the inconvenience or difficulty." The meeting ended in a charged atmosphere, but Lisa knew she had laid the groundwork for change. Olivia approached her, offering a faint smile. "We've got a lot of work ahead of us," Olivia said. Lisa nodded, her eyes glinting with determination. "Yes, but this is just the beginning." The city council meeting had ended not long ago, but the tense atmosphere lingered. Lisa stepped out of City Hall, feeling the heavy weight of pressure on her shoulders. What she didn't expect was how quickly and forcefully the backlash from the police force would come. The very next day, Chief Richard Harrington ordered an increased police presence in crowded areas, particularly around protest sites. He claimed it was a measure to ensure public safety, but Lisa recognized it as an intimidation tactic aimed at weakening public support for her. Police patrol cars roamed neighborhoods continuously, their lights flashing even when no incidents were reported. Many residents began to feel uneasy, not because they felt safer, but because they felt watched. "This isn't about protecting us," one resident told Lisa during a community meeting. "They're trying to scare us." Lisa knew this to be true and understood that this was just the beginning. One evening, after a long day at work, Lisa returned home to find an unmarked envelope on her desk. Inside was a piece of paper with a chilling message: "Stop digging if you don't want things to get worse." Lisa clenched the note in her hand, feeling anger rise within her. But she quickly calmed herself. She had faced many challenges in her life and knew that this threat would only fuel her resolve to uncover the truth. The next morning, during a private meeting with her close advisors, Lisa received an unexpected call from Daniel Price, a former police officer who had served under Harrington. Daniel's voice was hesitant, but carried a sense of urgency. "Mayor Johnson, I have information you need to know," he said. "I can't stay silent any longer. I have evidence that Harrington has covered up many similar incidents in the past. It's not just Mark Spencer. This is how he runs the system." Daniel went on to describe how Harrington had orchestrated internal investigations to protect officers guilty of misconduct, ranging from abuse of power to discrimination. He sent Lisa a secretly recorded video from an internal meeting. In it, Harrington could be heard stating, "We can't let any of these incidents get out of hand. Sometimes it's better to handle things in-house. The public doesn't need to know everything." Lisa watched the video in silence, her hands trembling slightly. This was the evidence she needed, not just to defend herself, but to prove that this fight wasn't about one individual. It was about an entire system. Lisa decided she wouldn't remain silent. During a meeting with local activists and journalists, she presented the evidence Daniel had provided. She not only accused Harrington of abuse of power, but also called on the community to demand transparency from the police force. The video quickly went viral on social media, drawing national media attention. Harrington found himself under immense pressure, but he wasn't ready to concede defeat. Alone in his office, Harrington swept a pile of papers onto the floor in a fit of rage. "They want to take me down, but they don't know what I still have up my sleeve," he muttered, his eyes glinting coldly. He picked up his phone and called a journalist he was familiar with. "I have a story for you," he said, his tone calculated. "Make sure the article makes it impossible for Lisa to recover." Harrington also convened a private meeting with his loyal officers. "We can't let her win," he emphasized, slamming his hand on the table. "I want every effort made to undermine her credibility, whatever it takes, as long as it leaves no trace. This is all just a conspiracy to tarnish my reputation and that of the force," Harrington declared at a press conference, trying to maintain his position. But Lisa knew that the power of truth and the growing support from the community was beginning to shake his foundation. After the video exposing Harrington went viral, tension in Meadowville reached an all-time high. Lisa decided to organize a meeting with local activists at the community center, a symbol of unity in the town. Her goal was to devise a concrete action plan to push for reform and ensure the safety of those fighting for justice. However, when Lisa and her team arrived at the community center, they were met with an unexpected scene. A police barricade had been set up around the building. Patrol cars lined the streets, their lights flashing, and rows of officers stood with arms crossed, their faces cold and unyielding. Sergeant Tom Parker, one of Harrington's senior officers, stepped forward, his voice laced with authority. "I'm sorry, Mayor Johnson, but we cannot allow this meeting to take place. We've received information about a potential riot, and this is a preventative measure." Lisa felt her anger rise but maintained her composure. A potential riot? This is a peaceful meeting with activists and community leaders. You have no right to block it. Parker raised an eyebrow, his expression defiant. "My right is to ensure public safety, and I'll do whatever it takes to uphold that." As Lisa stood firm against Parker, a voice rang out from behind her. Michael Anderson, a prominent activist in Meadowville, stepped forward, his eyes blazing with determination. "Parker, stop pretending you don't know what this is," Michael said, his voice strong and unwavering. "You're not here to protect the town. You're here to serve as Harrington's tool to cover up the truth." Parker turned to Michael, his lips pressing into a thin line. "Anderson, if you don't want trouble, I suggest you step back." But Michael didn't flinch. He turned to Lisa and the gathering crowd, his gaze igniting a shared sense of resolve. "Mayor, we can't let them push us back. This is our space, and they can't take it from us." Lisa stepped forward, standing tall in front of Parker. "Sergeant Parker, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to do what's right for this community. If you think you can stop me, you're wrong." As the crowd began to gather and protest the police blockade, an unexpected moment unfolded. One of the officers in Mark Spencer's unit, Officer Jason, who had remained silent through the previous events, stepped forward, his face filled with hesitation and concern. "Mayor, I can't keep doing this," Jason said, his voice trembling but resolute. "I've seen enough. I won't stand with those who hide the truth anymore." The crowd froze in disbelief. No one could believe their eyes as a police officer turned against his colleagues to support Lisa. Jason continued, "I have evidence that Harrington has covered up many similar incidents, not just involving Mark Spencer. I secretly recorded a private meeting where he admitted everything. I can't stay silent anymore." Jason pulled out a USB drive and handed it to Lisa, his eyes filled with determination. Lisa, stunned but composed, took the drive, realizing it was the opportunity she had been fighting for. Looking into his eyes, she said, "Thank you, Jason. You're not just helping me. You're helping this entire community." Parker's expression flickered with doubt, but quickly hardened. "If you cross this barricade, I'll have no choice but to arrest you," he warned. Lisa met his gaze, her voice unwavering. "Then arrest me. But remember, you're not just arresting one person. You're arresting the voice of justice and truth." Her words hung in the air, stunning the crowd into silence for a moment before erupting into chants of support. Under the weight of the crowd's gaze and the cameras pointed at him, Parker hesitated, stepping back. Seizing the moment, Michael pushed forward and opened the community center doors. "Let's go in," he shouted. Lisa led the crowd into the building, undeterred by the police presence. Inside the center, dozens of residents had already gathered, their eyes filled with anticipation and hope. Lisa stepped onto the small stage, facing the crowd, feeling their collective determination. "We've faced many obstacles to be here today," Lisa began, her voice charged with emotion. "But that only proves how necessary this fight is. We will not be silenced, and we will not stop until Meadowville becomes a place where everyone is treated fairly." The crowd erupted into applause and cheers. Lisa knew this was only a small step forward, but it was a step of profound significance. After the meeting at the community center, Lisa felt a new wave of energy coursing through the town. However, she was acutely aware that greater challenges lay ahead. The unity she had ignited was creating significant pressure on those determined to maintain the status quo. One morning, as Lisa entered her office, Olivia Carter was already waiting, her face tense. She placed a folder on the desk in front of Lisa. "Mayor, I think you need to see this," Olivia said, her voice steady but tinged with unease. Lisa opened the folder and skimmed through its contents, a chill running down her spine. It was a list of council members who had been secretly meeting with Harrington over the past few days, along with notes revealing their attempts to obstruct the independent investigation by using political power to delay and distort the truth. "William Parker's on the list," Olivia said, breaking the silence. "He's not just opposing you openly. He's working behind the scenes with Harrington to discredit you before the investigation even begins." What hurt Lisa most was when she reached out to Sarah Bennett, a longtime friend and fellow council member, seeking support, only to be met with an unexpected response. Sarah shook her head, avoiding Lisa's gaze as they sat across from each other in a small cafe. "Lisa, I know you want to do the right thing, but I can't stand with you on this," Sarah said, her voice tinged with regret. Lisa felt as if a knife had been plunged into her heart. "Sarah, why? You've always supported me. We promised to change Meadowville together." Sarah lowered her voice, still avoiding Lisa's eyes. "I have to protect my position, Lisa. If I side with you, I'll lose the support of the conservative voter base, and I can't let that happen." Sarah's words left an awkward silence between them. Lisa looked at her longtime friend, feeling the isolation closing in around her. After the meeting, Lisa and Olivia stood in the hallway, gazing out the window. "Remember the first day I was elected mayor? We held that little community celebration," Olivia said softly. "I can still see everyone laughing and sharing their hopes for the future." Lisa nodded, the warmth of the memory cutting through her current pain. "Yes, and we've accomplished so much. This isn't easy, but it's worth it." When Lisa returned to her office, Olivia was waiting. Seeing the exhaustion and heartbreak on Lisa's face, Olivia stepped closer. "Mayor, I know things are getting harder," Olivia said gently but firmly. "But you can't let them beat you. This is the fight we started, and we can't stop now." Lisa took a deep breath and looked at Olivia. "I don't know if I have the strength to keep going, Olivia. Even the people I thought would stand by me are turning away." Olivia placed a hand on Lisa's shoulder, her eyes shining with determination. "Big changes are never easy, and you know that. But look at the people out there, those who have stood up to support you. You're not alone, and I'll always be here to fight alongside you." Olivia's words were a profound source of encouragement, helping Lisa regain her resolve. Lisa decided to focus on strengthening community support. She organized meetings with various resident groups, listening to their concerns and sharing what the independent investigation could achieve. At the same time, she and Olivia prepared materials to counter Harrington's efforts and those of the conservative faction in the council. Lisa knew she was up against a deeply entrenched system, but she also understood that the power of truth and the solidarity of the community were her greatest weapons. "We won't back down," Lisa said to Olivia one late evening in the office. "Not now, not ever." After weeks of escalating tension, the pressure in Meadowville reached a boiling point. A large protest was held in the central square, drawing hundreds of residents. It was not only a demonstration of the community's strength, but also a demand for justice and transparency from the police force. Although Lisa had been advised to keep her distance for safety, she chose to attend, showing her support and solidarity with the people. She knew her presence was the clearest statement of her commitment to the changes she and the community were fighting for. The protest began peacefully. People held signs with messages like "Justice for Meadowville" and "No More Injustice." But Lisa soon noticed something unusual. A group of individuals within the crowd, dressed like protesters, started inciting aggression, shouting hostile slogans, and throwing objects at the police. Lisa immediately realized these were not residents. Their actions, coordination, and deliberate efforts to provoke chaos indicated they were planted agents. She suspected they were undercover officers sent by Harrington to justify a crackdown. As expected, within minutes, the police began using tear gas and batons to disperse the crowd. The peaceful protest devolved into chaos. Amid the turmoil, as police began arresting protesters, a sudden figure emerged from the crowd. A man, seemingly another protester, intervened to help a fellow demonstrator and then revealed his identity. "You're not alone in this fight," he said to Lisa, opening his coat to reveal a police badge. Lisa gasped, recognizing him. "Harris?" Officer David Harris, a colleague in the police force, nodded. "I've seen enough, Mayor. I can no longer stand with those who hide the truth, no matter who they are." Lisa quickly moved to the center of the crowd, trying to regain control of the situation. She raised her hands and shouted through a megaphone, "Stop! This is not how we fight. Stay calm and don't let them push us into violence." Her voice cut through the tension, and some in the crowd paused. But the police continued advancing, arresting protesters indiscriminately, whether or not they had acted violently. Lisa spotted an elderly woman, Mrs. Margaret, struggling to escape the crowd but being shoved to the ground by an officer. Without hesitation, Lisa rushed to her aid, placing herself between Margaret and the officer. "Don't touch her!" Lisa shouted, using her body as a shield. In the chaotic moment, an officer accidentally struck Lisa, causing her to fall and scrape her shoulder. Despite the pain, Lisa quickly got up, helping Margaret to safety. A photo captured the moment Lisa stood protectively over Margaret, her face resolute, her shoulder bleeding. The image, along with videos of her actions, quickly spread across social media. These images and videos ignited a public outcry. Lisa was hailed not only as a leader, but as a symbol of courage and dedication, willing to face danger to protect her community. The event placed Harrington and the police force in an even more precarious position. While videos showed excessive force from the police, Lisa emerged as a hero in the public's eyes. Social media and news outlets flooded with praise for Lisa. Mayor Johnson doesn't just talk, she acts. This is the leader we need. Harrington, feeling the mounting pressure, held a press conference. But this time, his justifications were no longer met with acceptance. The wave of public support for Lisa had grown too strong for him to control. Late that night, Lisa returned to her office, exhausted but resolute. Olivia was waiting for her, offering a soft smile as Lisa walked in. "You've done something no one thought possible," Olivia said. "But I know we still have a long road ahead." Lisa nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We won't stop here. Tonight, Meadowville has seen the truth. Now it's time to turn that truth into action." After the chaos at the protest, Lisa knew she had to act quickly to capitalize on the community's support and push the investigation forward. A major press conference was organized at the Central Square, where she planned to reveal the initial findings on police misconduct and Harrington's role in covering up past incidents. The atmosphere in the square was tense. Reporters from major outlets and a large crowd of residents had gathered early, eagerly awaiting the revelations Lisa was about to share. As Lisa prepared her speech, Richard Harrington, sensing the threat to his position, decided to make a desperate move. He reached out to a few sympathetic journalists and leaked false information about Lisa. Articles quickly surfaced on several news sites, accusing Lisa of manipulating the investigation for personal gain and misusing public funds for personal benefits. Although baseless, the rumors spread rapidly, causing some residents to begin doubting her. While Lisa was in her office preparing for the council meeting, a sudden message from Olivia caught her attention. "Lisa, I have something very important," it read. Olivia arrived quickly, her face pale as she handed Lisa a copy of a confidential document she had just obtained. It was evidence from a private meeting between William Parker and Harrington, where the two discussed ways to block Lisa's investigation and even planned to corner her politically through underhanded tactics. Olivia handed Lisa the document, her voice low and hesitant. "This evidence is strong enough to hold them accountable. Mayor, Harrington is trying to discredit you. What should we do?" Olivia asked, worry in her voice. Lisa placed a reassuring hand on Olivia's shoulder, her gaze steady. "We won't let him derail us. The truth will speak for itself." Lisa stepped onto the podium, the glare of camera lights illuminating her face. The crowd fell silent as she began to speak. "Fellow residents of Meadowville, today I stand here not to defend myself, but to defend the truth," she began, her voice firm and filled with emotion. "In recent weeks, we've witnessed abuse of power, intimidation, and attempts to silence justice. But today, I will show you the truth they've tried to hide." Lisa presented documents, video footage, and testimony from former officer Daniel Price, clear evidence of Harrington's repeated efforts to manipulate internal investigations to shield offending officers. She cited specific cases, including incidents similar to Mark Spencer's. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the square. Lisa's voice grew stronger as she continued. "This isn't just about one person. It's about a system. We cannot stay silent. We cannot allow these actions to continue, and we certainly cannot let anyone, myself or anyone else, obscure the truth." As Lisa concluded, Olivia Carter stepped onto the stage, her eyes shining with resolve. "Ladies and gentlemen," Olivia said, "I stand fully with Mayor Johnson. This is a fight not just for justice, but for the future of Meadowville, and I know we can prevail." Officer David Harris, one of the few in the police force willing to speak out, made his first public appearance. "I've served this community for 2 decades, Harris said, "and I know that law enforcement must be accountable to the people we're sworn to protect. I stand here to support the independent investigation and to urge my colleagues to do what's right." The presence of Olivia and Harris added significant weight to Lisa's message. The crowd erupted in applause and chants of support. The image of Lisa standing alongside Olivia and Harris, united with both political and law enforcement allies, quickly became a powerful symbol of the fight for justice. Harrington's attempts to manipulate public opinion fell flat as the community recognized who was truly fighting for them. The press conference ended, but Lisa knew the battle was far from over. Still, today, she had won an important victory, not just in defending herself, but in inspiring hope and unity within the Meadowville community. After the chaotic protest, the atmosphere in Meadowville began to shift. Lisa's fight, alongside the community, forced many city council members to reconsider their positions. The undeniable evidence, combined with strong public support, placed immense pressure on the council. An emergency session was called to discuss passing reforms to the police system. Lisa entered the council chamber with Olivia Carter and her new allies by her side, aware that this was a defining moment. William Parker, once one of the most vocal opponents, now sat silently. The pressure from public opinion and irrefutable facts had compelled him to change his stance. As the vote commenced, Lisa and Olivia waited in tense silence. The final result: a majority approved reforms to the police system, including increased transparency, independent oversight for misconduct, and mandatory anti-discrimination training. Harrington and Mark Spencer were officially suspended pending detailed investigations. This decision was publicly announced, serving as a declaration that Meadowville would no longer tolerate abuse of power. A week later, Lisa received a letter from a national organization advocating for reform across the United States. The letter invited her to join as a leader, leveraging her experience to create a broader impact. When Olivia heard the news, she immediately encouraged Lisa. "Mayor, this is a huge opportunity. You could change not just Meadowville but the entire country." Lisa remained silent for a moment, her eyes gazing out the office window at Meadowville's residents rebuilding trust with one another. She smiled and turned to Olivia. "Thank you, Olivia. But Meadowville still needs me. We've only just begun. I can't leave while the work remains unfinished." That afternoon, Lisa stood on a stage before the community, with hopeful faces looking up at her. Under the gentle sunlight, she spoke. "We've come a long way, but this is not the end. This is only the beginning. The changes we've achieved today will lay the foundation for a better, fairer Meadowville. But to maintain what we've accomplished, we need everyone's unity and determination." She paused briefly, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. "This fight isn't over, but I know that with everyone's collective effort, we will continue moving forward. Meadowville will become a model for other communities, a place where justice and equality are not just words, but a reality." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, chants of Lisa's name mingling with the soft breeze. Lisa stepped down from the stage, blending into the community she had worked so passionately to protect and improve. Her eyes reflected determination as she looked toward the distant horizon where new challenges awaited. But she felt no fear, knowing she wasn't alone. The community of Meadowville was ready to move forward with her, building a future where everyone's voice would be heard and respected. Lisa chose to stay in Meadowville, continuing to lead and fulfill her mission, proving that this journey was not hers alone, but belonged to everyone. The story of Lisa Johnson is not just a tale of one brave woman's fight, but a testament to the resilience and strength of an entire community. From injustice and oppression to the light of hope and change, Meadowville showed that when people stand together, no challenge is insurmountable. What do you think about Lisa's decision to stay in Meadowville instead of joining the national reform movement? If it were you, what would you do in her situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story inspiring, please like, Sandhair to spread its meaningful message, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful and inspiring stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.